Good morning, everyone. This is Father Nate, missionary priest in Italy, and thanks for joining us today, December 24th, on No Greater Delight, our podcast on Marian Feast and Marian Meditations. Well, today, obviously, we're celebrating the Vigil of the Nativity, the birth of Jesus Christ, but there's also a long tradition that celebrates or recalls the virginal marriage of Our Lady to Saint Joseph. For some reason, it's been kept as a festival in Sens, in France, for a long time, but then also in other countries. We don't really know why this is the case, like why they've celebrated it this way, but whatever. It's if you want to celebrate on the Vigil of the Nativity, you want to celebrate the marriage between Mary and Joseph, have at it. Now, curiously enough, we're going to pass over to St. Mary in Stevensville, Montana, in the United States. It was on the night of December 24th, 1841. Not long after Father Pierre de Smet started St. Mary's mission with the Bitterroots Salish, the Flatheads in Montana, that an orphan boy came into an old woman's teepee to study some prayers in preparation for baptism. As little Paul, as his name was, he was 11, told Father de Smet not long afterwards, he saw someone wonderful there. He said, "Her feet did not touch the earth. Her garments were as white as snow. She had a star over her head, a serpent under her feet. And near the serpent was a fruit which I did not recognize. I could see her heart, from which rays of light burst forth and shone upon me. When I first beheld all this, I was frightened, but afterward my fear left me. My heart was warmed, my mind clear, and I do not know how it happened, but all at once I knew my prayers." Right? Unsure if this visitor was a man or a woman, little Paul said that the same person came to him in his sleep, pleased that the first village of the Flatheads should be called Saint Mary. And with that, Father de Smet identified the boy's helper as the Blessed Virgin. And the following year, on May 30th, he erected a small statue at the apparition site. So that's a beautiful tradition there. Likewise, the confraternity of our Knights of the Lady, the Militia Sanctae Mariae, was established in 1964, canonically established, right? It was canonically erected in 1945 at the Cathedral of Chartres on Christmas. 1964, Our Lady, we actually have two different dates here, but no matter. In any event, it's the erection of the confraternity of the Militia Sanctae Mariae, right? We have both the date of 1945 and 1964, so one of them is probably true. And then, this is a very interesting image, the last one for today, is Madonna von Stalingrad, right? Or the Stalingrad Madonna, as it's known, right? Dr. Kurt Ruber drew a charcoal image for trapped German troops in 1942, right? So what happened? In 1942, Kurt Ruber, it was during the Battle of Stalingrad, right? And he drew this image on just, people on a piece of paper, as I recall, maybe actually a map, right? And with charcoal, the only thing he had. The original is displayed on the Kaiser Wilhelm Memorial Church in Berlin, but there's actually copies of it all over the place, including in the Kazan Cathedral, because it's a sign of reconciliation between Germany and its enemies at the time, the United Kingdom and Russia. There's also a copy of it in Coventry Cathedral, right? You can look up online if you want to see, Wikipedia has an example of the picture of the Madonna von Stalingrad. It's a simple charcoal sketch, right? About 3 feet by 4 feet. Mary is depicted wrapped in a large shawl, holding the infant Jesus close to her cheek. On the right corner are the words Licht, Leben, Liebe, life, light, life, and love from the Gospel of John. And it's in the corner, actually, Ruber, the artist, wrote in German, I'm not going to say it because I'll butcher it, Christmas in the Cauldron, 1942. And then he says Stalingrad Fortress, right? The Kessel is the German word for an encircled military area, right? The picture was drawn by this Lieutenant Kurt Ruber, who was a German staff physician and also a Protestant pastor, right? So it was December of 1942 during the drawn-out battle for Stalingrad. And he wrote, later he said, "I wondered for a long time what I should paint. And in the end I decided on a Madonna, or a mother and child. I have turned my hole in the frozen mud into a studio. The space is too small for me to be able to see the picture properly, so I climb on a stool and look down at it from above, to get the perspective right. Everything is repeatedly knocked over, and my pencils vanish into the mud. There's nothing to lean my big picture of the Madonna against except a sloping, homemade table, past which I can just manage to squeeze. There are no proper materials, and I've used a Russian map for paper. But I wish I could tell you how absorbed I have been painting my Madonna, and how much it means to me. The picture looks like this. The mother's head and the child lean toward each other, and a large cloak enfolds them both. It's intended to symbolize security and motherly love. I remember the words of St. John, light, life, and love. What more can I add? I want to suggest these three things in the homely and common vision of the mother with her child and the security that they represent. Later he added that he went to all the bunkers, brought my drawing to the men, and chatted with them. How they sat there, like being in their dear homes with mother for the holiday, right? Later, Ruber hung the drawing in his bunker for his unit's celebration, which he described as a moment of Christian devotion shared by all the soldiers in his command. And this is what he writes. He says, "When according to ancient custom I opened the Christmas door, the slated door of our bunker, that is, and the comrades went in, they stood as if entranced, devout, and too moved to speak in front of the picture on the clay wall. The entire celebration took place under the influence of the picture, and they thoughtfully read the words, light, life, love. Whether commander or simpler soldier, the Madonna was always an object of outward and inward contemplation." The Madonna was flown out of Stalingrad by Dr. Wilhelm Grosse, his battalion commander. Ruber himself was taken captive after the surrender of the Sixth Army and died in a Soviet prisoner of war camp in 1944. The Madonna and a number of letters from Ruber were delivered to his family, and they stayed with the family until the German federal president Karl Karstens encouraged the surviving children to donate the work to Kaiser Wilhelm Memorial Church in Berlin. And so that's, in fact, what they did, where the original image is housed till this day. For today's reading from The Imitation of Mary by Alexander de Rouville, we continue with Book 1, Life and Virtues of the Blessed Virgin Mary, from her Immaculate Conception until the birth of Jesus. And today we will be considering Chapter 6, We Must Give Ourselves to God Entirely and Forever. And again, this chapter is, a conversation between the believer and Mary. So the believer says, "Fervent Virgin, you consecrated yourself to God during this life, and you did it without reservation or restriction. You surrendered your liberty to Him in its entirety, that you might have no will but His. The only satisfaction you wanted in this world was that of pleasing Him. The only pleasure, that of depriving yourself, for love of Him, of every pleasure. You never broke your promise. You walked the path God showed you, and every day made new progress. Your example condemns my fickleness in God's service and my reservations toward Him. I am ashamed of my behavior, for God is ever the same toward me and deserves from me a like devotion and fidelity." And then Mary speaks. "My child, why did you stop after beginning so well? Is God no longer the great and lovable master He once was? Has the relationship between you changed? Or do you perhaps depend on Him less at one season than another? Is not your duty to give yourself entirely to Him the same at every moment? As you advance in years, God's benefits also become more numerous. Your gratitude, therefore your fidelity, ought also grow. God alone created your heart, and He created it for Himself alone. He alone should be its master. He did not say, 'Lend me your heart,' but 'Give me your heart.' That's Proverbs 23:26. You obeyed Him and consecrated your heart to Him. What right do you have to take it back? You do the world far too much honor when you give it a share in your affections. You insult God greatly when you confront Him with such a rival. You say you would regard it as the greatest misfortune not to be among the friends of God. But can this jealous God call Himself the friend of someone who is so lukewarm and slothful? God does not think it too much that He should give Himself entirely to you. Live your life, therefore, entirely for Him. Give Him all, and in Him you will find all. The world and all it contains is as nothing to the man for whom God is everything." And then we return to the words of the believer. "I am weak, Holy Virgin, and need a great and powerful grace if I am to profit by your instruction and to walk in your footsteps. Win for me, I beg you, the help I need, even while you encourage me by your fervent example. After such inconstancy and infidelity, shall I dare to offer my heart again to Jesus? But his anger must give way to a humble and contrite heart. That's Psalm 51, verse 19. But above all, it must give way to your mediating prayer. Mother of mercy, enable me to make my peace with him. My God, my Savior, at your prayer, so fill my heart with his grace, that in serving so good a master, I shall place no limits, know no hesitation, and yearn for him alone.
Thank you for listening, and we hope you enjoyed our Marian podcast. As St. John Paul II teaches us, from Mary we learn to love Christ, her Son, the Son of God. Through her intercession, may we grow ever closer to him. We encourage you to share this with a loved one or friend and help spread our devotion to Mary. Thank you, and God bless.